Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Yvonne Skipper from the University of Glasgow, and in this video I am going to be talking a little bit about your brain and how your brain works and how your memory works and how you can be a better learner. So before I kick off, I just want you to take a little second to look at this photo. All right, so in this video what we're going to do is 3 different interactive activities. So all you'll need is a piece of paper and a pen, so you can do some writing, and ideally some other people to do the activities with as well. So the first activity I want you to do is to get your piece of paper and a pen. Feel free to pause this video if you need to go and grab one, and I want you to write the numbers 1 to 10 down the side of a sheet of paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out some words for you, and I want you not to write the word I say, but to write the 2 things that come to your mind quickly when you hear them. So for example, if I say the word toast, you might write butter and jam if those are the 2 things you like, or you might write Nutella, or you might write burnt, depending on how good your cooking skills are. So I want you to think about the first 2 things that come to your mind when I say each word. All right, so remember, no cheating. You're not allowed to write down the actual word. You've got to write down the 2 you think of. All right, let's go. So the first word is whistle. The second word is teenager. Number 3 is cabin. Number 4 is time. Number 5 is before. Number 6 is cheese. Number 7 is stomach. Number 8 is country. Number 9 is barn. And number 10 is year. If you need a little bit longer to write down your words, then please pause this video now and make sure you've got 2 words for each example here. Okay, now what I want you to do is to flip your piece of paper over so you can't look at your words. So you've got no clues, and I want you to see if you can remember the 10 words I put on the screen, okay? So no using your clues, flip your paper over, don't look at your clues, and just see how many of those words you can remember without your clues. Again, please feel free to pause this video if you need a little longer. Did you get them all? Can you remember them? And if not, does that mean that you've lost the words forever? Or are they somewhere in your brain, but you're just having trouble pulling them to the bit of your brain that you can use? What do you think? Have they gone forever? Will you be able to remember them, or are they in there somewhere? To check this, I want you to turn over your sheet and see if you can remember all of those words by using your clues. So remember, you can look at those 2 words now, so that jam and butter might help you to remember toast. So see how you get on now. Can you remember all those words if you used your clues? Again, you can pause this video and see how you get on. Did you do better this time? A lot of the time when we think we've forgotten something, we haven't actually forgotten it. It's somewhere in our brains, but what we're having trouble doing is taking it from our, the back bits of our brains and bringing it forward to a place where we can actually use it. So your brain has the knowledge, but it can't find it. Like when you walk into a room and you can't remember what you're there for, and you have to walk back out and walk back in again. And so why this activity works is because those clues help you to remember what you were thinking about when you learned the information. So there's some research that shows that actually if you can do your studying in the place where you sit your exams, you remember it better because we remember where we were sitting when we learned something new. So there is some evidence that we learn better when we're staying in the same places. So when you're trying to learn something new, the best thing you can do is tie it to lots of different things you already know. So if you're learning new words, for example, do they sound like other words? Can you link it to other things you know? Is there like we quite often use rhymes to help us remember things, or how to spell words like because big elephants can always unchain smaller elephants, little things that we can do just to give our brains lots of different things to link the information to, because the more things that it's linked to, the more likely your brain is going to be able to find a path to that knowledge that you need. Okay, on to the second activity. We're going to play the game heads, shoulders, knees and toes. So I want you to, with your partner, play the game, but what I want you to say is touch your head, touch your shoulders, touch your toes, touch your knees, and see how quickly they can do it. So again, quick game with someone with you. Touch your head, touch your knees, touch your shoulders, touch your head, and see how good they are. Again, please pause the video. Okay, now we're going to play the same game again, but what we're going to do is mix it up. So this time, we're just going to do head and toes. So when someone says touch your head, I want you to touch your toes. And when someone says touch your toes, I want you to touch your head. So touch your toes, touch your head, touch your head, touch your toes. Okay, have a practice just with those two to start off with, and take it in turns. So take it in turns to be the one who's calling and the one who's doing the game. Again, please feel free to pause the video. Okay, now just shoulders and knees. So when someone says touch your knees, you need to touch your shoulders. When someone says touch your shoulders, you need to touch your knees. Okay, so touch your knees, touch your shoulders, touch your shoulders, touch your knees. Again, have a quick game. Okay, now all four together. So if someone says touch your head, you touch your toes. If someone says touch your toes, you touch your head. If someone says touch your shoulders, you touch your knees. And if someone says knees, you touch your shoulders. So you can pick all four of them. And I want you to have a go with your partner. So take it in turns. So the first person maybe does 10, and the other person has to guess them, has to touch their head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And then the other person has a go. So I want you to play this through and watch how well your partner does. See how they get on. Okay, how did it go? Usually when people first start playing this game, they do a lot of because your brain knows what touch your head means. So almost your hands are starting moving before your brain's had a chance to go, hang on, we're not doing that. So generally when people do this, they start off finding it quite difficult, but the more they play the game, the better they get at it. So the quicker they get and the more accurate they get as well. So they get it right more times. And this is because your brain is forming new connections. The more we practice things, the better we get at them. So when you were little, you were learning to walk. When you first started, you and I were pretty bad at it. We fell over a lot. Nowadays, you probably don't even think about it. You just get up if you need to or walk across the room. But when you were little, that was a really big challenge for you. Same for other things like even simple things like learning to hold a pen or learning to do anything really. You start off and you're not very good at it, but the more you practice, the better your brain and your body get at it, and then you get better. Okay. Here's our last activity for today. So at the beginning, there was a picture of a man in the road. I want you to ask you what you can remember about it. So imagine that after this photo was taken, there was a car accident. Two cars crashed into each other, and the police are coming around and asking people for information. So can you remember anything about that picture? Can you remember what color? There was a man standing in the middle of the road. He would have had perfect view of this car accident. Maybe the police are looking for him. So could you tell me what color his jumper was, what he looked like, anything about his description? Do you know how many taxis there were? The two cars in the crossing, the two that bumped into each other, what colors were they? Can you remember? And what shops were there nearby? This is quite a tricky one, so have a pause and see if you can remember. Okay, so the truth of the matter is that the man in the crossing was wearing a kind of bluish jumper. And there was a blue and silver car in the crossing. There were quite a lot of taxis. I'm not even sure of the number myself. And there was a phone shop and a Laura Ashley. So this might have been quite a difficult one for you. Do you think you would have remembered more about it if I told you that you were going to have a little test on it later? Generally, people say yes, because if they were given more time to look at something, and also they were being told you're going to have a test. If I gave you, if I said I'm going to ask you questions later, you would have paid more attention to it. So this shows that actually we can't learn very well if we're not paying proper attention. So the first thing for learning is we have to be paying good attention. We have to be really focused on what we're doing. And that is the first kind of bit of learning, is to be able to pay attention and to know what we're going to be asked to do. So I might have asked you, if I was to get you to learn a number of words, I could tell you that, and then you would be able to learn them. So the first important thing about learning is we have to be paying attention and be ready to learn. So this summary of this is to think a little bit about how to be a good learner. So the first thing you need to be doing is paying attention to what's going on. And of course, it's not always easy to do that, because sometimes, if there was going to be a car accident, let's say, nobody would say, oh, there's going to be a car accident in a minute. So make sure you're paying attention. The first thing, if we're learning something, is we need to be paying attention. Secondly, we need to try and link it to other things that we know. So if remember when we were looking at the list of words, if we were able to link it to other words, that helped us to remember it. So it's good to try and link up information. And then the next thing is that we need to practice. So the first time we do something, we're not so good at it, but the more we practice it, the better we get at it. So I hope that's been useful for you. If it's something that you're interested in, there's a second video where I talk a little bit about some of the psychology research that's been done on this. Thank you.